Hello YouTube, my name is CanGov, and I recently posted a video about how to easily upgrade your starter house in Minecraft. It was pretty well received, but I want to double down on just how easy it actually is to improve your build skills using a basic starter house. In the original video, I used a house I had designed ahead of time with that video in mind. So today, I'm going to show you how to upgrade 4 starter houses that I not only didn't build, but actually haven't seen yet. So let's hand it over to Recording Gov and see what we're working with. So we're going to be starting with this house Nova built. I, of course, was not recording. When I pasted it in, I thought I wasn't. But my initial reaction was just that it is quite a bit bigger than I was expecting. All I knew about this one is that she said she pretty much used the same blocks you would find in 1.8, even though we're in 1.20, and that there was no roof. And she was not kidding about that. There's no roof. I do like her interior though. It can be spiced up, but for a general starter base, I do actually quite like that interior. So let's get another copy of this house in here. There it is. So they're identical, and I'm going to work on the one on the right, and we'll leave this one as Nova's reference. So this is also kind of a test. If you watched my first video about upgrading houses, you might see some things that I'm already going to change. I'm going to start with the door and the windows. So I'm getting rid of that block. I'm going to put dirt in, and I'm going to put the door on the inside. Same thing on the other side. And I'm going to replace the glass blocks with panes all the way around the house. I personally wouldn't do windows this long. I would probably do something in the middle here, just because that gives you more wall space on the inside. It's also obviously easier to get planks than it is to get glass early game, depending on your spawn, of course. But the reason I'm replacing all of the windows with panes is because it's a more efficient use of your starter materials. Since 6 glass blocks will actually make 16 glass panes, you would need less than half of the blocks that Nova originally used in this to make the windows with panes. Plus, the window panes give it more depth, the same way the door does on the inside. The one on the right has more obvious visual depth than the left, and I've used fewer materials for my starter house than Nova did over there. It sounds like I'm just roasting and judging my friends, but I promise that's not the goal. Next thing I want to immediately focus on, I know you're probably thinking, the roof? No, the floor. Number one, you could very much give this cobblestone some texture if you had the patience and the resources for smelting. You can mix some stone in here. Depending where you spawn, you could mix in some mossy cobble, stone bricks, anything like that. However, I don't really want to use too many resources that she hasn't already used. So I might even just do this to give the floor a little more oomph. The floor has a little bit more going on now, and it sort of separates things into corners, which I personally think is nice for storage as well. But speaking of storage, the other thing I want to look at, continuing with the floor, is I think there's too much storage in here. Now, I know Nova makes pretty damn big builds. There's a lot of like digging things out, so she might actually need this much space in a starter house. But in my mind, a starter house is one you only live in for a little bit, and then you either make it bigger or you move somewhere else. What I'm actually going to do is replace these barrels. You could, of course, get rid of the chests and keep the barrels. But I think something ideal to do here is learn how to spell. There we go. Is to actually use this random hole she has in the middle, fill it with water, and turn this into your first crop farm. I'm gonna fill this with wheat seeds because that is the easiest crop to get early game, and it's perfect when you start your cow farm or your sheep farm. Now we can discuss the lack of roof. So, Nova did tell me that there was no roof in her build because she doesn't make roofs on her starter houses. And in theory, that's not a problem, except for the fact she didn't light it up at all. You could do one of two things here. If you want no roof, like Nova has, you could simply light things up yourself. If you have iron to spare, you could obviously do lanterns as well. But I'm going to do that for torches. And then because it's exposed directly to the sky, all of that will grow, no problem. But if we want to add a roof in, which personally, I would add a roof. If we do the sort of style of a villager house with the roof, it's going to be a really tall pyramid with no real use. It's kind of just not necessarily a waste of resources, but I don't personally think it's aesthetically pleasing enough to be worth the resources. So I'm going to do something else here. Because I've added in this wall here, I'm actually going to put in ladders, maybe one on either side. And then I'm going to do something up here, probably make it flat. So cut to that. I said cut to when the roof was flat and then pause the recording and then didn't unpause it and just kept yapping. Okay, so what I did is that I added, this is the original roof level right here, this block. I put the ladders centered. I used slabs all the way around the top because that's a better use of our resources, seeing as you get more slabs with blocks than you would get full blocks, same as the glass with the panes. And then I wanted to fence it in because fencing it in means that if a mob spawns up here like a creeper, they can't go anywhere. They're not able to fall down and blow up your front door, which I left mine open so they would blow up the inside of my house. As long as you keep these trapdoors closed, you're set. Anything that spawns up here can't get down because there's no mobs that can open gates. However, you obviously don't have to use this fence pattern. You could do gates all along. You could use fences without walls. Use different kind of wall, different kind of fence. The world is your oyster with the fencing in. This is just the design I personally chose. If you're doing a flat roof, highly recommend fencing it in just in case you think it's well lit up and it's not. Now I can kind of do, again, almost anything I want up here. She gave us a really big space to work with. I could fence off corners and have my farms up here, like my, chickens, sheep, cows, pigs in the different corners. You could put a nether portal up here. You could put your enchantment set up here. You could just make a cute little sitting sort of patio area. A flat roof is actually something I really like and recommend for a starter house because you use the same number of blocks as you would if you were going up, maybe less, depending what style you're using to build up a roof. And you get so much usable space you wouldn't have with a pointed roof. Might be slightly less aesthetically pleasing than a big fancy roof, and it does kind of look like a guy with 2 eyeballs, a mustache, and a crown, but I think that's kind of cutesy. So I'm not going to put anything up here right now, but I did list some various options. We have a roof, and I'm going to assume that there was spare iron at some point. There we go. And we are still keeping in the original block palette. So these are all blocks that she would be able to collect based on what she started with. Again, you could mix other blocks in with the cobblestone, but I think because we added the wood, it doesn't really matter that these corners are a solid block. I think it still looks perfectly fine like that. I would decorate the front a little bit. I don't love using oak trap doors for decor because there's holes in them. So for example, with the little flower bed trick that I did in my first video, you can see the dirt through it. I don't love that, but I want to stick with her color palette, so we're just going with it for now. There we go. So I have that on both sides. Obviously, you could also do it underneath these windows, just because, again, this is one of the easiest ways to decorate a starter house. You're going to have wood, you're going to have dirt, you're going to have some sort of flowers readily available. I'm actually curious to see, I'm assuming everyone did the starter house in oak, even though for me personally, this is where I spawned in this world. And I have 3 different types of trees around me, 4. But I'm gonna guess everyone used oak for their starter house. So we'll see. I think the height really helps, even though it's only up 2. This looks very squished, though you could easily fit in there. Because of how wide it is, it makes it look shorter. Short and stout, little teapot, handle, spout. You know how it goes. I would maybe even do something differently here, just to give it even more depth. Do something like this, something like that. That does make it blend in a little bit. Oh, obviously, before we even look at the door, we could give her a path. I don't think anyone did too much outside or any path work at all, because I told them I needed the Lightmatica schematic. I would guess that they didn't path it up at all. Yeah, I think I like that side better. Again, a lot of it is playing around and figuring out what exactly you like. That is the #1 most important thing in Minecraft, is fooling around with things until you make something you like. It's okay if you don't make something you like first try or second try. I said this in the first video, but trust the process. There you go. So that's the entrance I'm going to settle on. Oh, and of course, I'm going to lighten up a bit. All right, so for our upgrade, we've mob-proofed it by lighting things up. We made a little more what I consider to be efficient use of the floor down here. I still don't know why exactly she just had this hole in the middle. Maybe her thought was like underground storage, but I think it's kind of perfect for this. And you can actually double up on that. Because this is a source block, you really could just dig down here and make yourself some underground storage as well. You have a nice easy way to get up and down with the water. Yeah, so we made the floor a little nicer, just a little more clean cut instead of solid cobble. Like I said, a little more efficient use of the center. And then we come up here and we have a safer roof. Well, we have a roof and so much space, so much room for activities. You could do whatever you want up here. So here's our comparison. Left being Nova's original starter house and the right being my little upgrade. This is very much just for aesthetic purposes. There's a tiny bit more efficiency because you have more room to work up top and you have the indoor farm. But again, the point of this was simply to upgrade the build. No, no tea, no shade to Nova's house. I told them all to make a very simple starter house. They don't know I'm upgrading them, so sorry to anyone who's offended by me upgrading their house. But that is our first upgrade. Let's see what's going on with our second one. Cloudy said their house took them almost no time to build. It says it's only 168 blocks. For some reason this one doesn't list the number of blocks. Maxie's is 3. Yeah, I think Nova's might be the biggest. Okay, I'm kind of curious about penguins. Oh, unsupported version. That's why it doesn't show how many. Okay, just kidding. But we're gonna do Cloudy's and I will have to message Penguin. Okay, yeah, simple little, it's kind of like villager house. Ignore that block. That was, I already know that was the block they're using to get the corner of their schematic. This is Cloudy's house. Oh, no floor. Maybe there was a floor and it just didn't load with the schematic, but it is lit up. I will say it is lit up. Okay, you already know what the first two things I'm going to say are. I want to bring this in. I actually don't... maybe that doesn't work because of how the panes look. Probably not going to work because of how the door is. Yeah. Moving the door back won't change that. Okay. So what I am going to do then is make it bigger. I understand why it's so small. Again, it's a starter house. But I am going to make it slightly bigger. So I want to keep the general idea, again, general idea and general color palette of what Cloud has done here. I want to maintain. Now I would personally use a different color for the roof than for the base. I want to stick with Cloud's color palette. I thought that donkey was a villager. They've used all oak, so we're gonna stick with all oak. Like I said, I'm guessing everyone used all oak. One thing I am going to do though, I'm actually going to change these to slabs so that we get a little more bang for our buck, because I did make it wider. You don't want to use too many more resources. And by turning those blocks into slabs, that helps save us a little bit. I might do trap doors in here. Maybe slabs, but I feel like slabs might make the roof feel too low. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Now have a little bit more depth, a little more excitement going on. Now, I very well could do a couple things here. If we wanted, we could definitely do something like that instead of these trapdoors. What do you think? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Do something like that. I feel like the trapdoors look a little silly now if I have it like that. And I could lay them flat though. That gives us a little more going on. I might make it one higher on the roof. Have this layer stick out, which I guess defeats the point of me making it slabs to use less resources, but oh well. That's definitely better. So we're gonna go with that. Now I actually kind of want to do something other than just the dirt trapdoor plant out front. I might do little flower pots like that. We could also do... Is there a way to view the decorated pot? No, I have to make them. Okay, well you could do the pottery sherd pots out front. I'm gonna do something like that, and then again I'm gonna pretend we have some iron laying around in the starter house, and I'm gonna use these little nooks to tuck lanterns into, and then I'm actually going to build a bit of storage outside because we don't have that much space indoors, don't have too much more room. You could definitely add more barrels in here, but it kind of blocks the window and I feel like won't look as nice from outside. So what you could also do is stick storage there, have our crafting table in here, but again, it gets kind of crowded. You can't do a whole lot more than that without this feeling crowded. So I'm gonna build outdoor storage in the back. Sort of a hodgepodge. Barrels, chests, campfires, and some trapdoors. Let me get shovels so I can put the campfire out. Something like this. I didn't have any spruce in theirs, but I feel like it might look good anyways. For just the sake of the aesthetics here, you get the kind of idea of what I'm going for. So now you have more storage outdoors, but it looks kind of natural in the outdoor area. Get rid of these so it blends better. There you go. And you can even put a crafting table, or what can we put out here? There you go. You can do as much or as little as you want here, obviously, but this just gives it a little bit more going on out back. And I feel like that helps. It's storage as well as aesthetics. I lost my shovel. There you go. So now we have something going on in the back and you get more storage that way. I know not everyone's gonna be able to keep their storage super organized with that kind of look, but you could definitely still do something with it. And on the sides, you can kind of do whatever you want over here. You could make this so it's like a little, this is sort of like a little sitting area. Some like stone brick in there. You have a little sitting area on that side. You could of course do the simple flower beds here still. I'm gonna get rid of these trapdoors. I liked them originally, but the direction I'm going, they don't really work, so we're just gonna eliminate them. Yeah, the sides are kind of, you can do whatever you want with these sides because they're just that one dip in, which is actually really nice. Oh, I did opposite. I was supposed to work on that one. I said that at the start. Oh well. This is Cloudy's original house, and this is what I have ended up with. I'm decently happy with that. Again, the top is pretty flat. You could even do something up there if you really wanted. Flatten it one more. That's what I'm going to settle with. Oh, actually, almost forgot. I wanted to put a floor in here. I might just carry these in here. It's small enough that a solid floor, I think, is perfectly fine. You could also do something in here if you wanted the inside to be a little more exciting. Really could do so many different things in here. Something like that. Like that. You could pretend that there's a bit of a steep that direction. You could do the other direction, whatever you want on the roof. There's my upgrade for this one. Cloud gave us a really good base to work with though. Because it's such a small square, It gives us a really nice working base. Again, it depends sort of where you're building your house and what you plan to build around it as to what you want to do on the sides. But I do really like the back storage. It's just this sitting area side versus the flower side. There you go. There is building number 2. I need to contact Penguin about his building. All right, we're on to house 3. I'm waiting to hear back from Penguin, but we have Maxie's starter house that we can work with right now. Ooh, okay. I'm loving how different these all are. This is so perfect. They didn't even know the video idea, and they're doing it perfectly. Okay, I gotta rotate this. All right, so here is Maxie's starter house. Let's take a little look-see on the inside. Again, no lighting. I think everyone forgets about lighting for some reason. Oh, there's a little painting in there though that we can't see, but it's cute. I like the use of the roof storage. Good roof storage. All right. I think you can already see the 2 things I want to change immediately. I'm sure you can already see them. But let's look at a few other things first before we get to putting in the door and the windows. This is awkward to me. This little funky guy here. And it's there because Maxie's bed is here. That's why that strip is there. But I would personally just fill it all the way up and maybe even put a window in here. A pane, of course. I would do something more like that, and then we can get a little decorative on the front. But this way, it almost looks more like these wood bits here are shadows from the stairs, and it looks a little bit less awkward. You want to do it 1-0. You don't really want your roof to be flush with your house because that's not how roofs usually are. There we go. Looks a little tall, but what we'll do is change the base. This is something I talked about in my first video that we haven't talked about yet this video. Is making the base of our pillars a little different to give depth outwards. Normally with things like the windows and the door, we're adding inwards depth, so this gives us outwards. It divides it up so this doesn't look as awkwardly long to match what Maxie has going on up there a little better. Is that too much though? Okay, having that's too much, but I think just this one being inwards is better. Or outwards, I guess. The other one's inwards. Like that. Yeah, that's better. So I feel like that separates the house into sections a little better than this did. Come on up. We have natural light in here, and we can see that this is a salad. I have no idea what that is, but there's natural light in here now. So there you go. We got something going on. Actually, let's stay up here for a second. I'm gonna break these. Just, it feels a little less claustrophobic when we get rid of that. I'm going to throw a lantern in here. There, now it's really well lit up. Nothing's gonna spawn up here now. Let's see about the other side though, because obviously we can't do an entrance on both sides. That does not work with his design. We got to do something back here. I want to do, oh, I'll have to replace that ladder. I want to do the same sort of thing here. And then let me see what he has going on the inside. Can we? Not sure I love them going all the way down, but let's build something out here first. We're gonna go with old reliable, but slightly different. Because of how he has this here, I want to sort of mirror it with my flower beds. I'm trying to decide if I like that. I might do bushes instead, make them with leaves. Oh, I guess I should use leaves he would have, so oak leaves. There, that gives a little more decoration. I've unintentionally made the cross. If you don't want to cross your building, you could absolutely get rid of the trapdoors. You could put buttons up there instead. Lots of different things you could do there. Or you could even punch another window up top. But I'm going to leave it like that. I'm trying not to use too many resources, like I said. Put our door in here. I am going to place this with a pressure plate table. Oh, I suppose you can't do that because box there. I'm going to do that. I think it's a little bit better because obviously I was sitting here, that plant pot would be in my way. So I like that little table better. It looks a little more like a table and a little less chunky. You have a chunky house, so if you want. Who am I to judge? I just forgot the word for torch for a second, so clearly I should be judging less. So I'm going to do this and this for my lighting. Also do the other. Obviously, again, torches, you can kind of place them where you see fit. I do, I can say I like his use of blast furnace, and then I just obliterated his blast furnace. This floor is open enough that I would like texture in it personally. So I'm going to sprinkle some, maybe even just some mossy cobble would be nice. Yeah, even that gives it a little more texture. If I had other blocks, I would actually make the chairs spruce so they don't blend in with the walls as much. And I'd probably do the same with these two little bedside tables. I would make those out of spruce. They don't blend with the wall as much, but they go with the barrels still. This is a great way to use the space for storage, by the way. I love this. This one is already decently, like, we didn't need to do a lot, but here's the thing. If you have the same concern as we had over here at Cloudy's house, where the sides are sort of very solid, because he's only decorated one side, perfectly fine, because he only has the one window. We decorated this side, and now we're left with a bit of a blank slate here. So there's a few different things you could do, but I'm actually going to take this donkey because he really wants to be involved. Come on down. We're gonna make you a little home on the side of this house. I'm going to give him some hay, but I'm going to put these trap doors on top of the hay because that will prevent him from leaving. If you just had the hay, he could climb on up here and just hop the fence. Just like that, as he just demonstrated. His eye gave him a boost by putting those on the ground. Come back in here. You're making me look dumb. Get in here. Get in here. You're making me look stupid. All right. Now that he's made a fool of me, if we do it like that, he'll be fine. And what I'll do instead, I will throw in some of that instead. And then you can even toss in a cauldron so he has water. I would personally stick my cauldron in the ground here. And then what we can do is get a pot and a carpet. That's what I was looking for. A moss carpet. This bad boy in there. Plonk that on top. So now he has food and water. His little food bowl and his big water bowl. And I might even give him a friend. There you go. Now there's something going on over here. You could do more decoration up there if you wanted. But I'm kind of happy with that. Just having a little fenced area for the donkeys. Obviously, the horses, cows, what, like, I'm not going to control what mob you put in your fenced area. But that is my upgrade. So this is how Maxie's house started out. Our little flowers inside. I really like those little flowers. I think they're cute. Could use the pots. And then I've mostly upgraded the outside. Honestly, I didn't really do a whole lot on the inside. I just added the mossy cobble, technically the windows, opened the ceiling up a little bit, and put the lantern in. There you go. Okay, got a hold of Penguin. He just made his in the newest version, which I did not know had Litematica. I honestly thought Litematica hadn't updated to 1.21. Got them shaders on. But he did it in 1.21, so that's why it wouldn't load for me. So let us clear a quick space and let's see Penguin's house. We're just on a 1.21 world now, so give me a second. All right, here we go. Ooh, okay, 577 blocks total. Oh, it says 1.21.6. Is it gonna work? It is. Okay. Okay, we get to use something other than oak. We get to use something other than oak. Penguin did say his only comment for me was that he might have gone a little overboard. Oh, we're facing the wrong way. Is this the front? This is the front. Okay, we gotta rotate. So paste his in, and then we'll scoot one over here for me to work on. There we go. Ignore the various floral debris here. Here's Penguin's house, and that's what I'm gonna work on, but let's look first. Okay. He lit his house up. Lot of windows. I love the sort of cutesy, like, heart-shaped window in the back. What else have they done? Okay, lit up the whole thing. Oh my god. He's a builder. He's a builder. Okay, so he said that he might have gone a little bit overboard, but he would still consider this a simple starter house. So let's see what I'm doing here. Okay, this is the one I'm working on. So you already know the first thing I'm gonna do in every single one of these, apparently. I'm just gonna keep doing this until someone out there realizes that it's more efficient to use glass panes than it is to use glass. One day, someone is going to clue into that. I'm actually not sure that I necessarily want windows all the way across. Ooh, I get to work with spruce. Might go a little crazy just because I get to work with spruce finally. This is another thing I showed an example of in the first video. Using barrels. Gotta angle it right. Oh, this horse has a baby. Cute. I'm not sold on the corners, actually. Maybe he was on something by not having those. I'm just not sold on the windows all the way around. Oh, okay, the horse wants in. I don't think you fit through here. Your baby can come in. You don't really fit. Okay, here's what I do know that I want to do. While we think about the outside. I want to make the roof slightly more exciting. With the ceiling. We're gonna have a fully flat ceiling. I don't love a fully flat ceiling. Especially if the building is this tall. I love making things round in the block game. Also gonna replace all of these. I might do the same thing I did with Nova's house, where I might put blocks in here. So it gives us more space to do things. I do think this house could maybe use more storage. I might then I'll just put the windows up one. We're using the same amount of glass that way, as if we add 2 in either, gets rid of the 4 that were in the middle. This is big enough for a varied floor, I would say. Something we can actually do in order to get more storage. You could, of course, stack up chests over here. But it does get a bit crowded feeling if you do that. So instead, what I'm gonna do, because we are so luckily working with spruce this time, I'm just gonna make a nice checkerboard floor. What you can also do, if you want the checkerboard to blend in better than that, if you don't like the little nozzle, you come on down, place a block above where you want the barrel, place the barrel from the bottom, and then when you come out here, it almost perfectly, oh, I'm stuck, almost perfectly blends in, but you have storage in there, so cut to that, because you don't want to watch me do the whole thing. All right, so there you go. The floor has a little more texture when you walk in, and you've just gained a ton of storage. Not the easiest storage to organize, of course, but it's a starter house. Oh, those don't belong there. That's my fault. So there you have that, and then I'm trying to think. There's all this room up here. I think I'm gonna put in a ladder somewhere. Maybe on the side, because you have all this attic space that you could, in theory, work with. These are bottom slabs, so I'm just going to fill it in with top slabs quickly, because you can't place things on top of bottom slabs unless you want them to be floating. In which case, go off. You can have floating stuff if you want. Now I have all this attic space to work with. Oh, I don't have that space to work with. Ruh-roh. Don't look at that. You could make these slabs if you wanted to. You want your roof even pointier, and again, this will save you on some blocks because you get more with slabs than plain. And now we could do up here what Maxi had. If you want even more storage, you could put barrels along the sides. But this is actually a really nice space to decorate. So you could put like a kitchen up here. You could do a sitting area. This is another one of those the world is your oyster situations where you should kind of just use your imagination as much as you can. Okay, so what can we do up here? Put some lanterns. First of all, light up our attic. An attic doesn't mean it needs to be dark and crusty dusty. You could though, actually. You could crusty dusty it up. You could make this really, really attic-y if you wanted. But like there's some old boxes in here. Ripped up carpet a little bit. I'm also in the version where I can get leaf litter. Functional because you get so much extra storage, but also tells a story, has an aesthetic. Cobwebs, not the easiest thing to get early game, but ideally you want to find a mine shaft early game because that's kind of huge. Very helpful. So there you go. There's technically enough space. If you moved the ladder to one of the sides, maybe next to the front door, there's enough space for you to put an enchantment table up here as well, instead of my interesting choice of decor. You could light this up less too if you wanted. You could get rid of this light and this light, and it would still be well enough lit for mobs not to spawn, but it gives the creepy aesthetic a little more feel to it. Now, there is a lot of bare space in here. Or if you feel like that's too crowded, you could just pick 2 of them. This would actually be a cute spot to put a painting. Hang on. We can do random bear. I would not personally consider a painting starter game, but because Maxi had one in his house, I'm saying it counts. And also, look how freaking cute. That's so perfect. Okay. Obviously, we now... Oh, don't you belong in the attic? Get out of here. All right, so obviously, we now have to do some poppy decor outside because we just got a poppy painting first try in there. Not some pits, some pots. How about? Could do what I almost did on Cloud's house. There we go. That's a little better. I wasn't fully sold. I did try this. Not entirely sold on it. It might look better now. We have other stuff going on. It's not gonna look better that way. Yeah, there. That works a little bit better. Because it rounds the outside slightly, and then it makes more sense that we rounded our inside as well. So here's where I'm gonna need to break up this space a little bit because it is this big and empty, but it wouldn't really make sense for painting like on the inside. I'm just gonna do that. I'm simply gonna put a stair above the door. And this only works because our door is on the inside. That's what I'm gonna add there. Now we have these sides. It's gonna be the same thing as it is with all of them. With the flat sides, it's very one-dimensional. The way he's done his roof is helpful because it has this dark inner bit, which gives good depth, having the inside darker than the out. Our roof is also very solid. If I was going crazy, I'd probably like do a cutout here and add a window, but that's not super starter house. I don't think anyone cares that much about the roof in a starter house. It's more, will it protect you? Will it fit your stuff? Will you go, ooh, when you walk by it, you know? So that's what we have to start. I'm quite happy with the front now, but we got to figure out a little something with the sides. I don't love a full glass side. Apparently people do, because this is the second house where we've seen this. So might do this that matches up the sides. Might change these then. This may be seen as an unnecessary use of resources, to be fair. And I would not blame you. Hang on, I need to learn how to make pottery out of the sherds. I don't think I've ever done it before. Aha. I don't love that. Okay, well, whatever. I don't love that specific decorated pot, but it's okay. It's even. It's even. There's no, like, one center spot. So I might switch it around. Do this in the corners. That looks a little better. And then we could still put these in if we wanted. And make this grass again. I don't know. I don't actually know if the grass stays grass with the pot on it. I guess we'll find out if it turns to dirt. There we go. I'm really liking sort of rounding the edges just because it's so wide. I feel like it needs a little bit of rounding. This does have a center, but obviously because we have the cute heart-shaped window penguin made, I'm not even gonna worry about putting anything in the center. If you wanted to really keep it going with the layers, the moss carpet there. I'm just gonna copy the other side over here. Be back in a second. Now you might be thinking, Kanga, you're so proud of Penguin for actually lighting up the outside of his house, and then you came along and removed the lights from two sides of his house. You would be right. Do I like that better? I do. You would be right. I did remove the lights from here. Now, I very well could just hang two lanterns here, and there'd be nothing wrong with that. I could also stick them down here. There'd be nothing wrong with that. Lots and lots and lots of options. I could put them around the barrel. If I wanted to keep with the moss carpet, I could even just stick it down here. Moss carpet on top. Same thing in here. This is probably what I would do. Honestly, I would put a torch down there. I would not waste a lantern. If this was my actual survival world, I would not waste a lantern on this. Oh, little sheep. Why are you eating my grass? Looks like blocks do stay grass under the big pot, so that's cool. I learned something new, and I hope you did too. Here is... I'm falling. Here's our upgrade. So this was Penguin's original house, and this is what I've gone and done to it. Main change I made in here is I double chest. Oh, I stole his crafting table. Really give him one of those, huh? Added a little painting. The floor, I rounded the ceilings instead of leaving them flat, and we gave him a creepy attic. Obviously, I also did the sides here. You could build something up in this space too. I think it would be a little crowded, but if you don't care about the crowding, then adding that wall bit in here gives you lots of extra room to put stuff inside. It also adds to your decoration options outside, like I showed you with the pots in the middle before. So there you go, there's another upgrade. So those are all of the upgrades I have for this video. Thank you so much to my 4 friends who sent me their houses. None of them asked for context. None of them wanted to know why. None of them were concerned why. They were just like, cool, here you go. So I hope I got my points across. No matter what your build style is, no matter how simple or fancy you want to go, it's so easy to add little simple upgrades to your houses that don't cause you to use too many more materials, and some of them even help you to use less materials. And of course, a lot of these apply to big builds as well. I wanted to do small ones, starter houses, because a starter house is something pretty much every single Minecraft player is going to make at some point. And some people never do big builds. They just stick with small builds, they stick with houses. So if you can sort of refine your style with small houses, that's going to make the big builds even easier. So one last thank you to my friends. Hopefully none of them are like, wow, King, you made my house uglier. Hopefully they all think I did an okay job, considering they had no idea I was doing this. Thank you for watching. I'll show again all of the houses upgraded on the screen here really quickly. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you want to see me do this again with different people's starter houses, or with giving them a different prompt, because all 4 of them were given the same exact prompt, so I could ask them to build something else for me to upgrade. Or even if you just want to help me out, leave a comment down below. It can be anything, honestly.